Things to prioritize, like the most useful and interesting conversations, it goes parties, then workshops, then conference session.
I'm sorry, but you asked to be roasted, I will roast.
I'm talking about the level of intelligence of a cat or dog, okay? And so I don't think we need explicit symbol manipulation for this type of things that at the level that we are today. Okay?
What's cracking, guys? Aleksa here. I'm at NeurIPS 2022 in New Orleans. In this video, I thought just walking you around the event and showing you how things look like. I'm gonna focus on the poster sessions and I'm gonna walk around, ask some of the experts there for their tips on how to make the best use of the poster sessions, because as you might know, there is like a huge amount of posters. There's no way you're gonna see all of them. And so like some strategy on how to focus and what to do on the conference might be useful. So in my opinion, the main value proposition of conference such as NeurIPS, especially after 3 years of having pandemic, is to just socialize with your particular niche of researchers or engineers or whatever you're looking for here at NeurIPS. But it's definitely not to acquire any significant knowledge, because there is just so much information. It's very superficial. You're going around the posters and just skimming everything, maybe spending like 5 to 10 minutes at best at each of the poster sessions, because there's like 2-hour slots for maybe like hundreds of posters. So it's kind of infeasible. So I'm going to also show you around the company booths, and hopefully that's going to give you some feeling for how NeurIPS looks like in case you didn't make it, or in case you're planning to go to one of the following NeurIPS events. Anyhow, let's get to NeurIPS. Here we are, NeurIPS. So before we even get to the NeurIPS section, there is a couple other conferences happening at the same time. So there is this work boat thingy. I'm actually walking fairly fast and it's still gonna take at least 10 minutes to get there. What's up, man? Okay guys, Hall G, this is where the company booths are. I'm gonna get here a bit later, show you around. So this is here's Microsoft, here's Qualcomm Research, DeepMind is there, so there is a bunch of companies, Meta is there. 11:07, 7 minutes late for the conference. The poster sessions last for roughly 2 hours, so plenty of time to explore and ask people for advice. Okay, the famous Hall J. That's where the magic happens. That's where all of the poster sessions are. Let's enter here and let me show you the crowd. So, first tip, never go to the first row of the conference because it's super crowded. Just keep on going all the way to the back. Here you can see already less people. I mean, oftentimes there are some of the best poster sessions are actually here, in the sense the award-winning sessions, so that's partially the reason why there is so many people right there. But as soon as you start going to the last row, you'll actually see less and less people. As you can see here it's already getting quite empty, but still crowded. Especially if you are afraid of getting COVID or anything, probably worth wearing a mask. Too many people. But it's also very nice at the same time to socialize. So yeah, as I said, I think the main value proposition of a conference is basically to socialize, meet fellow researchers, fellow engineers, fellow whoever. So yeah. And we're getting close to the final row. You already see how it's sparsifying, so less and less people here. And finally the last row. Way better than the first row, definitely. So let me try and find some
interesting folks here and ask for an advice of how to basically cope with all of this fire hose of information.
Right, so the unconditional model doesn't receive any conditioning information. So the only signal it gets is the RGB frames, both at training and test time, and at training time it also gets the LiDAR signal from the car.
So I'm Greg Yang. I work on foundations of large-scale deep learning at Microsoft Research. I mean, just like, doing research is like such a cool life, It's just like hang out with people, talk about cutting edge research, and sometimes you party at conferences like this, It's a great life. I mean, everybody has a different strategy, right? So I think like when I first came to these conferences, I would like browse all the papers beforehand and see like which one I'm interested in. I think these days, maybe it's like the trend of the community. I feel like I know a lot of papers from like online advertising, like on Twitter or whatever. So yeah, it's also hard to kind of browse through all the papers. So I just kind of just one zero shot, like just
so you're literally following your interest. Like, what's your heuristic? Like, you see a lot of people at the poster and you stop, or like, what's your heuristic?
No, necessarily. Like, I mean, I might take a glance if like, it's very popular, but I think I try to like kind of walk through the poster, see what's interesting, take a couple of photos, if like look at like the titles looks interesting, and
then read that afterwards, or what's the idea?
I try to kind of like get through all the posters somehow, and then look at them afterwards. Yeah, but like sometimes like the poster is really interesting, I'll like stop and read. But what I found is that like when I first came to these conferences, I take too much time on like just a few posters. I never get to all the posters.
Depth research, I guess. Doesn't work when you have like these many posters.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I just want to get like an eagle's eye view of everything, and then I'll come back to the posters I'm interested in.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And so because you're in a particular like subfield of ML, you do some do you look for those authors in particular, or not really?
No, I mean, I take a pretty broad view of ML in general. So I mean, definitely, I'll take a closer look at things I'm more familiar with, like the theory and stuff like that. But I also try to just see like what's going on other sides of the field. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think it's good to keep your mind open. Like try to get influences from various different areas.
100%. I don't think enough people are doing that. Like I think people are zoomed into their own fields, and it's completely understandable. There is just so much information.
Yeah, so much information.
Tracking archive used to be a thing. Now it's like
that's
AK
impossible
feed,
now.
I guess AK feed and then like Twitter. Like
Nah, man.
Cool, man. Thanks for doing this.
Cool, dude. Yeah, thanks for interviewing.
I'm Ching-pei Li from Academia Sinica. I work on machine learning, nonlinear optimization and its applications on machine learning. Yeah.
So basically, could you give some tip to like newcomers to the field of ML, or in general anyone who hasn't been to NeurIPS so far? Like, how do you personally make sure you can?
It's also my first time.
It's your first time as well.
Yes.
Okay, but like so far, what was your experience for the first couple of days? How do you make sure you see the stuff you want to see during the poster sessions, given how many poster sessions there are?
Yeah, there are just too many posters, and it's really too crowded that it's very hard. But in general, so I had experience with other machine learning conferences before, but the scale here is like unprecedented, I feel like. Yeah, so it's
how many people do you have? Is it like 2,000 or even more?
Yeah, I think more than 2,000 papers got there.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay, more than 2,000 papers, so that means we have like way more people here.
Right.
Got it. So any tips on how to approach basically the posters and make sure like you see what you want to see?
So I really don't have a strategy. I'm just go through all the posters and try to see, because I have only limited time for each session.
Yeah, makes sense.
So what I can do is I just look at the title. If that's not interesting to me, then I'll just go ahead to the next one.
So I don't think you guys need the introduction to this guy, Zak Jost. He has a very cool graph neural networks basically course. And if you want to quickly introduce yourself.
Sure, I run the YouTube channel WelcomeAIOverlords. Mostly cover graph neural network content for the last year or so, but thinking about what to do next. So yeah, happy to be at NeurIPS, exploring the posters.
Yeah. take a look at this slew of information here. So like, how do you make sense of like thousands of posters every single day? Like, what's your strategy? Do you exhaustive search? Do you just randomly go and see what spikes your interest, or what's the idea?
Yeah, I've been trying to get a mental map of just the broad topics and like what people are working on, of course, and also what my blind spots are. So there's a lot of reinforcement learning work, which I know nothing about. I'm a little surprised at the lack of quantity around graph stuff and around like diffusion models. I thought that would be everywhere. Or maybe it's hidden under the surface and I just don't know enough about it.
Maybe it's incoming. Today's Wednesday, right? Maybe
today's Thursday is the last.
Today's Thursday.
Yeah.
Fuck. Okay. Yeah. Then you're right, I guess.
But I just started today. But anyway, yeah, lots of interesting work out there. A lot of things I just have no idea what. I'd say 40 to 50%. I just have no clue what it's about. But
+1.
Yeah.
I'm gonna +1 that one.
I'm just snapping pictures of the ones that seem like I might be able to dig a little deeper into, and having a couple conversations and. Yeah, it's just nice to try to take it in, and then my dreams will sort out, I guess, the rest.
Hi everyone, my name is Ishan Misra. I'm a research scientist at Meta in the FAIR team, and I work on self-supervised representation learning, specifically in computer vision, and these days I'm looking more at multimodal learning.
Awesome. How did you find the conference so far? Like, what's your experience with NeurIPS 2022?
So this is actually my first ever NeurIPS in person. I've attended NeurIPS, virtually before. I'm a very CVPR, ICCV, ECCV kind of person. So I think it is really amazing to actually see how diverse machine learning is, because when you attend just the vision conferences, you get a very narrow sense of how people operate, what kind of problems they care about, and here you really see the full variety and the full breadth of it, and it's been actually pretty nice.
Maybe too much. So how do you get the most out of this conference, given that there is like thousands of posters? Do you have any practical tip?
So I think for this one, really it's all on you, and it really needs, like, you need to do your homework. So basically, like, I actually had charted out what were the posters I would want to go to, and really like try to map it out in my own head, because basically there is a lot of information and it's very diffuse, and if you really care about like specific things, you really need to go search. And then I did this for the first 2 days, but then I got super tired, and then the third day was random walk.
When you say random walk, like was it?
Literally random walk in the poster session, and
Okay,
I was like, oh, this looks interesting, I'm going to stop. This looks interesting, I'll stop.
And for the first couple of like days, I guess, so you said you were going online and finding like interesting titles, and then you literally knew like the numbers where you want to go.
The numbers, exactly. Yeah.
Okay,
So I'd written the numbers down.
You're the first person that said this, by the way, and that's probably the best way to do, but it takes the most time
Effort,
beforehand.
So I did it on the plane when I was coming to New Orleans. In the plane, basically, I was basically doing this so that I could. It was reasonable time spent on the plane.
Cool. So like, given that you're a very experienced researcher already, like do you have any tips if you were to just get started, like as a newcomer, given how many things are going on right now in the field? Like, how would you get started? Would you join some of the research collectives and start having hands-on approach like EleutherAI or Lion or whatnot? Or would you be more, let's do a course, let's read these books, let's start doing some projects on my own? Like, what would be your approach, I guess?
I think it would have to be a combination at this point. The field moves really rapidly. So I think like if you were to ask me a few years ago, even like 5-7 years ago, it would be that, okay, you can take a course and try to do projects by yourself, but I think that's not the case anymore. There is like rapid advancement across all areas in machine learning. So I would say try to join, a place where you actually have experts, because talking to them and like discussing with people is the only way to actually learn anything anyway. And then on the side, because the experts that you will find in the group that you will find in the environment will also have like a certain like sampling bias. So then the only way to get around that is to actually go read and do projects. So at this point, I think doing a combination is the only way to sort of move ahead pretty rapidly.
Got it. Would you do a PhD if you were to start again, or would you in general, like, whom would you recommend PhD? Like, do you think it's 100% necessary, or do you think?
So I think the main thing is what you get out of it. And for me, I think the main thing I got out of my PhD were two things. One, the ability to like be patient and learn from failures and think deeply. Again, this doesn't require you to be in a structured program. You can do this by working. And the second is the network of people you actually came to know during your grad school. And so I think for me that was super valuable. And again, if you get that network in a different place, if you work at say one of the other companies, you'll get that network anyway. So yes, I think these were the two primary things for me that actually I got out of my PhD. And if you can get them anywhere else, then yeah, you probably don't need to do it.
Sounds cool. I think I agree with that point. And maybe final question, like joining a big tech company versus joining a startup. What do you think are pros and cons? Like obviously you're now at Meta, so you might be biased, but like what do you think is also good for newcomers and also for more experienced folks?
So I've interned at startups. I haven't worked full-time at them, but I think at startups you get to do basically a wide variety of things because there are like fewer people, so essentially you will become a jack of all trades very quickly. You'll get to see everything. Oh, there's like a system issue, you go debug the system issue. There's this, you do that. Whereas at a bigger company, because there is structure and there's like teams running like distributed systems, all of that, you get to be like, I would say is kind of agnostic to that, and like somebody else is taking care of it, so you get to focus on your research. I think that's the difference. So if you really want to learn the full stack of things and the full possibility of things, startup would be a really good place to go because you actually are already in an environment where it's necessary to do that to survive. Whereas in a big company, it's not necessary to do because there are teams, and in fact, there you get to sort of focus on what you really want to do. And so in some way it gives you a little bit more freedom because you can like explore like 5 different things and then figure out, oh, I actually like the second thing and I will just focus on the second thing and that's the only thing I'm going to do. So I think that's the trade-off really.
Makes sense. I think I completely agree with that. Awesome.
If I'm a newcomer, then I'll probably will first watch many like description videos like you. So and then I'll
which channel would you watch? Which one? I didn't hear you.
Aleksa Yeah, that's the best one. For me, it's the first time to see the celebrity here.
Oh, I'm not really a celebrity. There are way bigger celebrities in this conference than I am. We have a fan gathering right here. Let me try and do this. Nice.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't think Alfredo needs any introduction basically to my audience. I basically, maybe you can say a couple of words about yourself, and then the idea is if you can tell me how do you make sense of like thousands of posters here on NeurIPS. What's your strategy? Do you do exhaustive search or?
First of all, I'm assistant professor at NYU. I'm a visiting assistant professor, so I'm like temporary position. And about here, what's amazing that I can get to know, since I don't know what I don't know, right? Here I managed to go through all the things, right? From the beginning to the end, and I check all the titles, and the one that really, somehow struck my curiosity, I'm gonna be asking like the 20-second speech.
Which features are you looking for? Is it like title? Is it like a visual image, or just the number of people at the, like what's your heuristic?
Yeah, I read the title. I read every title, and I hope to also get the takeaways if they give me the takeaway, right? But then if the people don't let me read their titles because it's not readable, then I will be getting to roast them, right?
I saw your rants on Twitter. I think they're completely like.
I'm sorry, but you asked to be roasted, I will roast. I will not.
You heard it, guys. You heard it. You better have nice posters.
Right.
Awesome, man.
All right, you take care.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
My name is Jun Wang, and I'm the co-founder of the iWUDAO, and actually we are a company to working on the fintech technology. Fintech is actually for the construction of the financial knowledge graph, especially the event-centric knowledge graph. And actually, I have been NeurIPS a few times, so I think it's a fantastic.
So a veteran.
Yeah. And I think the poster session actually used to the poster session in the evening, but this time is a little different. But I think it's also I like the poster session. I just take a few hours sometimes. I just walk around to see, because this is the best location you can get. A kind of the general overview of everything. It's kind of like quickly get what you want to like. Otherwise, if you, for example, if you just go to the website, it's very hard to check the hundreds of posters in one time. Yeah. Strategy is it's kind of the research. It's just like go to Manhattan
rest your order.
I just walk along Every poster, yeah.
And do you have any additional heuristics? Like, for example, you see some of these posters have a bunch of people in front of them. Do you go like kind of popularity search, or just you just?
Yeah. I think the crowd absolutely is one point to extract the audience. If some poster in front of the poster is so many viewers, that could be take a look. And I think from my point of view is that the size of the poster is also very important.
Yeah.
I found some poster is too small, so maybe some audience just skip.
And like a TLDR is also very appreciated. Just at the top of the poster or some type of a visual like information that kind of immediately like lets the viewer know what's going on in your paper. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think that's very important. The size.
Yeah.
Size doesn't matter. That doesn't matter.
That's what she said.
Nice to meet you. Actually, I watch your YouTube channels.
Thanks, man.
It's awesome. Fantastic videos.
Yo, I'm Ethan Caballero.
How did you find conference so far in general in NeurIPS? What do you think after a couple of years?
It was better than ICML. Although ICML was good too.
Yeah. So like, do you have any tips on how to make the best use of the conference? What was your strategy?
The things you prioritize, like the most useful and interesting conversations, it goes parties, then workshops, then conference session.
Okay, like this?
The conference session is the most useful for like advertising your own work, but as far as like useful conversations, like useful fun conversations and networking or whatever,
actually
it goes parties, workshops, conferences, conference post session.
How did you get like invites for the parties? What was your strategy there?
One of them I just got it. The recruiter emailed me 3 weeks ago, but the other ones you just walk up to the booth and ask them, or you just walk up to people that you kind of know at the you know. Oh yeah, and also there's like WhatsApp and Signal chats where people like dump all the party details.
Okay, I think there is one group on WhatsApp. Like 400 plus people.
NeurIPS. Yeah. That
they keep changing the name on every conference.
Yeah.
I think I just got added yesterday or something. So
Kind of
they
do it every conference.
Very low signal to noise ratio, but I guess.
But at least all the details end up there.
Yeah. That's true. Okay, so I don't want to ask any highly technical questions, but if you were to start, like when did you start? Maybe can you tell us a bit more?
Technically, 2013.
2013. That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
So how did you start? Like, what was your?
I was just like Googling about Google, and then found out about deep learning.
Interesting.
From that.
Yeah, I guess 2012 was the right year to start learning. ML. So if you were to start right now, given how much information there is and the number of posters and stuff, how would you start?
Read the first 5 chapters of deep learning book.
Really?
I'm serious. I feel like it's still useful.
Interesting.
Read broken neural scaling laws and start just implementing models.
Okay. Would you recommend reading papers first, or like how do you beginner implement a model? Like
start with like a GitHub repo that does something close to what you want, and then modify it to do the thing that's like slightly different than it was like intended for.
Would you join like a research collective such as EleutherAI or Lion, or do you think that's?
I mean, definitely like use like internet hive minds as much as possible, just because like they're like smarter than any individual head or whatever, like any individual brain. I exploit the hell out of internet hive minds to like network and like get information faster and stuff.
100%. Where do you get your like information from? Do you mainly use Twitter to find?
Yeah, it's mostly Twitter.
AK feed, or do you have any other insights?
It's mostly just Twitter, and like I mean sometimes you look at like you can like follow people on Google Scholar, but like you can also just follow them on Twitter. Like it's mostly just like boomer people who don't have Twitter where you use Google Scholar.
Do you think that scale is all you need?
For capabilities, if it's current methods plus future computing data, yeah. By future computing data, I mean like way bigger future computing data, like 20 years from now possibly.
So you think I think I'm in the camp of like scale is a necessary condition, but not a sufficient condition.
I mean, I agree.
Because like it's very simple, like looking at human brain, like the number of neuron, just a simple maths, and we know we're still like way below, but like
the way I phrase it is like you can get there faster with better methods, but you'll still get there. It's just the timeline will speed up if you have better methods.
I guess people know you from Twitter, but maybe you can say like what you do and
I'm Aran. I work with EleutherAI. I work on language models. A PhD student at Georgia Tech.
Like, how do you make the best use of the conference, given how many posters and content there is? Like, what do you have any tips for like newcomers or people who are planning on coming to NeurIPS next year maybe, or?
I'm actually a newcomer myself.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that makes the two of us.
Yeah. I think talking with many people, well, of course, is a great way to make use of time, and having meeting with people, not just seeing the posters and going to workshops. I think is very important. In my case, I've met a lot of people who already know me from Twitter, so that was one way to meet with new people.
When it comes to workshops, like do you actually sit down and listen to like a particular workshop, or are you just again doing high level like skimming of what's going on, or
I just skim. I think it's much better to just skim and go to many conferences you are interested, just rather than just focus on one. Because sometimes you see something unexpected in other conferences, other workshops. So
do you actually sit down and like listen to a whole lecture, or are you like maybe sit down 5 minutes and then go to another room?
I actually didn't listen to any talk, but I was just talking with people presenting the poster during the workshop. This way, I think we can have a bi-directional interaction, which is, I think, much more helpful than just listening to the talk.
Do you have any other maybe tips of how to like make the best use of the conference other than just meeting people? Anything else? Well, I think I'm of the very similar attitude. Like I think I've been just walking around the posters and meeting people rather than spending time like 40 minutes at one poster, because you only have 2 hours. There's like thousands of posters, and unless you're literally in one particular niche, it doesn't make much sense to spend too much time at a single poster session, I think.
Right.
So if you can tell me a bit about like things you do with large language models, how did you get started? Like given that most people don't have access to resources, like how did you get started with LLMs initially?
I think my first attempt at large language model is GPT-J, which is a 6 billion GPT-like language model.
You were a part of EleutherAI, I guess, or still are, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was last year. So we had some TPU compute through TLC, a program of Google. Yeah. So we had a huge TPU compute, and we could train it, train a JAX-based GPT model, 6 billion. And that was our first attempt, and some of my friends also trained what is called GPT Neo and Neo X.
20B. I remember the last one was 20B.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you maybe share? Are you working on even bigger models nowadays? Like, and you're probably under Stability AI now. So as much as you can say.
Some of my friends are interested in training a Chinchilla-like model, open source version. So like a Chinchilla scaling, which is much more efficient.
It'll be very cool. Cool. And like, do you have any tips for how others could get started with large language models? Like, is the best way currently to join, other than joining like obviously well-funded research industry lab? Like, what do you have any other tips? Like, other than joining, I guess, EleutherAI?
Actually, there are many other open source communities other than EleutherAI. One is called Lion, and they recently got a huge amount of access to supercomputer, Oak Ridge's supercomputer, and they can train their own language model as well. So one way is to form a community like that, and then apply for supercomputers access, and also you can also access to apply for TLC, even though it's mostly preemptive compute. I think that's a nice first step.
Makes sense. And would you like? Do you think it's better to join such a project and have a hands-on experience with training those systems, or do you think it's better to also just read a bunch of papers, be deeply in theory? Like, how do you find, I guess, the balance between reading stuff and learning versus doing and engineering?
Well, I guess it really depends on what you want to do. If you want to be a researcher, you have to read many papers. But obviously, you can do both at the same time. And I think doing something earlier is very important, especially if you want to do some big project like training large language models. So so for example, if you form a group community to train a large language model, it really takes a lot of time. So forming a community like that from early stage then maybe within a year or so you can come up with something big. Yeah, so I think start early is what I can say.
And in practice, like how many papers do you read like on a daily, weekly basis? Do you have any regularity there, or is it fairly ad hoc? Like you just every now and then, here's a cool paper, let's read it, and that's it? Or do you have a bit more recurrence in your paper reading?
Yeah, I'd say mine is quite consistent. Like actually, I don't spend much time per day for reading papers. Maybe just 30 minutes for just skimming archive feed and reading a paper, reading papers. Yeah.
So 30 minutes skimming the feed, like collecting the papers and then just skimming the abstracts, or did I understand you correctly?
Skimming the titles, of archive feed.
Okay.
And then if I find anything interesting, then I would go to abstract, table, and performance and so on. Yeah. Then so actually even though there are so many papers per day, most of the papers are actually probably not what you have to read. So yeah, you can just read a few papers.
Yeah, like the milestones, I guess.
Right, and in my case, I tweet about it with some summary and so on, which takes very little amount of time. Yeah, so I don't really spend much amount of time each day, but I do it consistently. So yeah, and maybe at the beginning of your career, you may have to read many papers. Yeah, but at later career, you don't have to read so many papers.
As soon as you get familiar with your particular niche, it's already enough to just skim the diagrams and the abstracts. Yeah, I definitely understand that part. And maybe final question, like, for somebody who's just getting started in the field, like if you were to just start right now in 2022, like how would you approach learning ML? What would be your approach? Would you join EleutherAI, like start like doing hands-on stuff immediately, or would you have like maybe some course first or a book or whatnot?
Yeah, I highly recommend to join communities like that as soon as possible. Yeah, and you can also do read and code and stuff. Yeah, my recommendation is to join as early as possible.
Okay, cool. Awesome, man. Nice to meet you, and thanks for doing this one.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Jan Stühmer. I'm an assistant professor in machine learning at the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology in Germany. And now at NeurIPS, hi. Yes, so this year, what was new to me this year as well was that the posters were not like ordered by themes. Like usually, posters which are about the same kind of research, they would be at least grouped in the same area in the hall. And this way, it was this year it was a bit different. This year, posters of all sorts of different research topics were just like randomly located, and so that meant that my usual approach, that I would just walk down the aisle until I find something that's interesting, didn't work so well. So this year, I think you really should first go through the list of posters and then pick out a few, and also expect that you can't see all of those. It takes like 10 to 15 minutes maybe. Usually I would just skim through the titles, read a bit of the abstract, and the authors list, of course, because sometimes you also just want to say hi to your friends. I should not be in favor of the theory, of course. No, I think it's always important to also get practical hands-on assignments, right? I think that's very important, but I would not just only do that, because in my opinion, what you always need, at least especially when you want to work in research, you need a solid theoretical foundation to actually contribute to research. And if you take this more practical hands-on approach, I think then you might learn what's the current thing, the current research at the moment. But if you really want to contribute, then it's better to have a solid theoretical foundation as well.
Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you for the interview. Yeah, I'm currently just building up my new research group, and I have PhD and postdoc positions available, so please apply.
I started with the panel session. The overall topic today will be generically discussing the future of graph learning.
He stands for Greg PT. Because of unknown reasons. Because some reason it's known as Greg PT.